Just tell me which members of the court you are bought.
I did not think that Justice Clarence Thomas should be failing to disclose his trips on a billionaire's
Do you think
yacht
he's
and
bought?
airplane.
Do you think he's bought?
I believe that there is grave risk.
Do you think he's bought?
I said there is grave risk.
Do you think he's bought?
To the confidence of the American people in our Supreme Court.
Well, if you don't think he's bought, why did you say it?
Okay, so you just watched that clip, and I know you're already feeling what I'm feeling. That was Senator John Kennedy doing what he does best, cutting straight through the nonsense with zero patience for people who throw around serious accusations and can't back them up when it counts. Professor Painter came into that hearing room as an expert witness, supposedly there to talk about climate change, and Kennedy came in with tweet after tweet where this man called Supreme Court justices bot, called Senator Graham Putin's favorite senator, accused Graham of soliciting cash payments for his votes, and called a distinguished University of Chicago professor a racist. Bold claims, every single one. And when Kennedy asked him to defend any of them, Painter either couldn't recall the tweet, dodged the question, or changed the subject entirely. If you want to see what real accountability looks like in a Senate hearing room, watch the full video and come back because I have a lot more to say. And if you're new here, hit subscribe because we cover moments exactly like this one every week.
Kennedy is next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks.
Senator Kaine.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to all of our witnesses here today. Professor Painter, on May 5th of this year, you put out a tweet. You said, I'm going to quote, "There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's the Supreme Court." Would you tell me which members of the Supreme Court you believe are bought?
I was particularly concerned at that point when I posted that tweet.
I understand, but if you could, I've got really limited time, and I apologize for interrupting. Just tell me which members of the court you are bought.
I did not think that Justice Clarence Thomas should be failing to disclose his trips on a billionaire's yacht and airplane.
Do you think he's bought?
I believe that there is grave risk.
Do you think he's bought?
I said there is grave risk.
Do you think he's bought?
To the confidence of the American people in our Supreme Court.
Well, if you don't think he's bought, why did you say it?
I said
yes,
that
you said members of the Supreme Court are bought. You're here testifying as an expert for my Democratic friends, and you're saying the members of the Supreme Court are bought?
I said when the American people feel that way, when we have Supreme Court justices
feel that way?
on yachts and in planes of billionaires and not being disclosed.
Anybody besides Justice Thomas you think is bought on the Supreme Court?
I believe that the court needs to clean
Anybody
up
besides
its
Justice
act.
Thomas?
I'm not going to go through each
I mean,
justice.
you tweeted it.
I tweeted the way the American people feel.
Did you mean it when you tweeted it?
And I stand by that tweet. This Supreme Court of the United States needs to clean up its
Let me
act.
ask you a couple others here, because you've on September 17, 2020, you tweeted, "It looks like Putin's favorite senator could lose," referring to Senator Lindsey Graham. Could you tell me your evidence for saying that Senator Graham is President Putin's favorite senator?
I don't recall that tweet and the story.
Well, I've got it. It's
tweeted
right
out.
here. It's right here.
I'm happy to look at the tweet, and I'm happy to write you, explain that. I don't know what that has to do with climate change.
Well, it has to do with your credibility. Did you say, what is your basis for saying that Senator Graham is President Putin's? I mean, have you ever talked to President Putin?
I have not talked to President Putin, and I would be happy to go look at the tweet and look at the story that I tweeted out and what Senator Graham had said in that context. You know, this is something
you say all this stuff. For example, you're here as an expert for my Democratic friends, and you say all this stuff. You called on September 16, 2023, a professor at the University of Chicago, very distinguished professor, Brian Leiter. You called him a racist. Can you explain to me why you think he's a racist?
I remember a series of tweets with him. He's a Marxist who put out a number of statements attacking African Americans and women. And he also was raising money for someone who had called the police on a black student for sleeping in the common room, and now has a wokekkk.com website attacking
That's
me.
fair enough.
So
Fair enough.
I will just say one thing that I learned in high school debate, that when you have no argument, you simply change the subject.
All right. On October 15th of 2020, you said Lindsey Graham is soliciting cash payments in return for voting on a Supreme Court nomination. What evidence, that's a pretty bold statement, Professor. What evidence do you have for alleging that Senator Graham was taking cash in return for one of his votes?
I don't recall that specific tweet,
Here it
but
is,
I
right here.
do.
Here it
I
is.
do recall. And I
Do you think he was taking cash for one of his votes?
I have received campaign.
Do you think he was taking cash for one of his votes?
I'm answering your question, Senator. I have received solicitations from both political parties.
Do you think Lindsey Graham was taking cash for one of his votes? It's a simple question,
I have
Professor.
received cash solicitations for cash on my email. And yes, from both political parties in connection with Supreme Court confirmation votes.
Well, I'm out of time,
wrong.
but let me just say for the record,
It's wrong.
my aunt's Facebook page has more credibility than you do. I could spend the rest of the day reading your quotes where you make allegations against people and you can't defend them.
You've said nothing about climate change. You quoted everybody from a Marxist
Senator
to
Kaine.
all sorts of other people. This has absolutely nothing to do with the topic of the hearing, Senator.
Senator Kaine.
All right, now that you've seen the whole thing, let me say what I think a lot of people are already thinking. Kennedy just gave a masterclass in how to expose a witness who comes in with an agenda and very little substance behind it. Start with the Supreme Court tweet. Painter posted that the court is bought, plain and simple. When Kennedy asked him to name names, he landed on Justice Clarence Thomas and the undisclosed trips. That disclosure issue is a real conversation worth having, but Painter didn't frame it that way. He posted a sweeping accusation implying the entire court is corrupt, and then when pressed, he couldn't even fully stand behind his own words. He kept retreating to grave risk to confidence instead of owning what he clearly meant. Kennedy was right to push on that. If you're going to say it publicly, say it under oath. Then we get to Senator Graham being called Putin's favorite senator. Painter says he doesn't recall the tweet. Doesn't recall it. This is a credentialed expert witness sitting before a Senate committee, and he can't remember publicly implying that a sitting United States senator is a foreign asset. That is not a small thing to forget. Kennedy wasn't going to let that slide, and he shouldn't have. The cash payments tweet is probably the most egregious moment in the whole exchange. Painter publicly accused Graham of soliciting cash in exchange for a Supreme Court vote. When Kennedy pressed him, Painter completely walked it back and reframed it as commentary about political fundraising emails. But that is not what the tweet said. You don't get to post something that inflammatory, let it circulate, and then quietly redefine it when someone asks you to defend it. I want to be fair here. Kennedy's rapid-fire style can sometimes feel more like performance than actual pursuit of truth. But in this case, the aggression was completely warranted. Painter wasn't there for a careful scholarly discussion. He was there as a partisan witness, and Kennedy treated him accordingly. The Ant's Facebook page line is funny, but the point underneath it is serious. If an expert witness can't defend statements they already made publicly, what exactly are they an expert in? Credibility matters, and Kennedy made the case that Painter had none left. What stands out watching this back is how calm Kennedy stays even while being relentless. He's not yelling or grandstanding. He just comes in with receipts, asks direct questions, and lets the silence do the work when Painter can't answer. That's effective oversight, and it doesn't happen nearly enough.